listeners, and welcome back to the Spook Central Podcast. It's high time that we had another episode here. I am your host, Addison Preston. Right next to me is our guest, Liam McFarland. Say hi, Liam.
Hi, I'm back.
And then, of course, once again, we still have my wonderful... Okay, I'm going to stop doing this voice now. Once again, we still have my wonderful co-host, Nicholas Rittenhouse, with us here, who does the same wave every damn time.
Yeah.
It's his trademark.
Apparently,
it's just like a little three-finger thing.
Velociraptor.
No, anyway.
No.
So, today, well, first off, this is the first podcast episode we've had with three people, because the last time we had Liam on is because Nick was away, and so this is an interesting setup to have two people right next to each other.
Yeah, our first threesome.
If you would phrase it that way.
Moving on. Speaking of threesomes, we're going to be doing Western horror today.
I'm not sure how this bridge, but...
I don't really know how those...
Want to know how that bridges?
How does that bridge?
Covers the three things I love most in life.
Well,
I'll let you figure that out for yourself what the third thing is. Anyway, so, Western horror movies. They don't really exist.
No.
Yeah, no.
So that's the first point we're going to make.
Ladies and gentlemen, for watching this.
No, so Western horror it's a subgenre. Well, I guess it's more of a mix of genres.
It's a theoretical subgenre.
Yeah, because when I went into this, basically where I got this idea from was I started watching Westworld, and first off, that's completely sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it does have some horrific elements, as most sci-fi does, which, robots being robots and such. But obviously Westworld is set in a Western setting. And so I was just kind of thinking, is there Western horror out there? Because when you think of the Wild West, it can be a gruesome and horrific place.
Disease,
famine. But once I started looking into it,
Wolves.
There's not a lot there, and I was trying to find a reason why it's not there, and I couldn't really find a reason, but I found some really interesting things on the subgenre, or genre mix, whatever you want to call it. First off, the most famous movie that you would consider a Western horror movie and comedy movie at the same time is probably Tremors 4.
I was going to say it's Tremors. It's one of the Tremors movies.
Tremors 4 is... And when I'm talking about Western horror movies, I don't mean Western-esque stories where it's a lone gunman.
Okay, also clarify, I know it's kind of already been clarified, Western as in Wild West, not Western as in North and South America.
Right, yeah, not I'm not talking about
if you couldn't tell by the getup that he's in.
Yeah, I decided to dress up today.
But that's a very stereotypical American get-up.
Yeah, that's true. When we say Western, though, we do mean typical
West.
Spaghetti Western
Clint
type
Eastwood,
idea. Clint Eastwood,
Gunslinger,
Sergio Leone, that kind of stuff, real Wild West stuff. But so other than Tremors 4, the only other thing that is mainstream horror Western is Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, which even that... It's horror because it's King and he likes to add horror elements to a lot of the stuff he does, but it's one of his less horror things. It has a lot of sci-fi in it.
So that's more sci-fi and supernatural opposed to stark horror.
Well, and even the movie that they created for it, which...
Not good.
Yeah, that was disappointing. The poster, I'm just talking strictly on the poster, it looks like a science fiction poster from the mid-2000s. Well, mid-2010s, I guess, but...
I've read some of the Dark Tower books.
Okay, yeah.
And they're good books.
They're good.
But the movie did not do them justice.
Did you watch the movie?
Yeah. I watched it with my dad.
Oh, okay, yeah, because your dad's a really big...
He's read all the Dark Tower books.
Okay, yeah. And then we mentioned previously, Tremors 4. Only Tremors 4. The other Tremors movies don't count. Well, no, they just don't, because Tremors 4 takes us back in time to... Is it Perfection? Is that what the town's called? I think it's Perfection.
Well, that's the name of the town after, the conclusion.
Oh, right, after it becomes Perfection after that. So it was something else before.
Rejection or something.
Maybe,
it was, supposed to be a joke on the name.
Okay, yeah. But so, other than that, where do we go with Western horror? So, it started off, with low-budget stuff, and for the most part still continues to be low-budget horror movies that, delve into that Western territory. But it appears to have started with a 1959 movie called Curse of the Undead. So it's a vampire Western horror movie, which I don't know how those three things got, like, Western and horror, as we'll come to find out, actually fits quite well together. But where does vampire come into this with the Western setting? And I'll continue to, like, look at this. There's a lot of Western horror movies that have vampires.
Which confuses me because there's not as massive, like, to my knowledge, about central, like, prairies and, like, more Southern America.
Yeah.
There's not a massive vampiric influence. That's more of a Southern Europe, like an Eastern European thing.
Well, yeah, like, that's where the, like, vampire lore comes from.
It's Romanian.
Yeah, and then Stephen King brought it into the small town, like, Maryland-type setting. But, like, where it comes into Western, I have no idea.
See, if I was going to make a Western horror, I think Creature
Yeah,
is the
like,
best. Like,
gnarly Creature.
Not Wendigo, because that's more...
No,
that's
like, I
more
understand
New
what you're
York,
saying.
but, like, you know, Chupacabra kind of thing. Like,
yeah, or even something like that, right? Like, something that takes from the folklore around these, like, Wild West towns.
but it at least
like
makes sense.
Like, I think Chupacabra would be a good movie to see, because, like, the most famous thing I can think of a Chupacabra from is, like, a Phineas and Ferb episode and then a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, because because the myth, like, the myth was disproven, which is why people stopped kind of, like, talking about it, because it was entirely disproven to be rabid, like, coyotes with rabies.
Yeah.
But also, it's still a cool myth that fits in that setting. So if you were going to make a horror movie in that setting, and you wanted to make it good and realistic to some point, because the more realistic a horror movie is, at least in my opinion, the scarier it is.
Yeah,
you could definitely make a good Western / like, it'd be more Mexican if you're going Chupacabra. That kind of place where it's, you know, desert.
But still, like, because with the like, even just, like, with the barren nature of, like, the Wild West, it's
Arizona,
Ohio.
Potato town. It's the potato
Look,
state.
we get that you're scared of Ohio.
It's just a void, man. There's nothing there. It's a void.
Nobody lives in Ohio.
It's just potatoes.
No one truly lives in Ohio. They go there to die.
Ohio is just Children of the Corn, but for miles.
Just constant Children of the Corn.
Ohio, the town, the state
town of the corn.
The just children.
That's really cool. Children of the crops, children of the potatoes.
Yeah.
Children of the potato.
Potato children.
All right, but Curse of the Undead. So it does actually use the European folklore vampires because so there's a difference between European folklore vampires and like the modern vampire that we see with like Bela Lugosi and Dracula and all that.
Well, what do you mean by modern? Like modern is in Twilight, sparkly, chiseled, like. Or like
those are
modern, like Morbius, or do you mean modern?
Okay, I mean modern in the non-folkloric sense, like the movie vampire.
But like, what do you mean?
Like Nosferatu, Dracula, that vampire, like the type of vampire that dusts in the sunlight. Because the original, like European folkloric vampires.
Yeah, the not sexy vampire.
Cross.
Okay,
garlic.
Like they didn't dust. Like for the most part, they were mortal. It's just that they were immortal.
That's like quite a stark contradiction.
Well, okay, no, but like it's not like they were scared of garlic. Which, first off, when it comes to vampires, like why would you hate? I hate garlic, but like
I love garlic. Garlic's amazing.
I mean, garlic on stuff is fine, but if someone's shoving cloves of garlic at me,
I'm not gonna
go like this.
I'm not gonna munch down on it, but like I don't know where that came. I mean, it doesn't like Werewolves in Silver. Like that was probably
true
because like rich people in the Middle Ages, because that's like an English thing. Werewolves are an English thing.
Yes.
So it's like rich people would have like sterling silver swords and whatever,
right?
Or, like shiny silver stuff. But like vampires and garlic, werewolves and silver, other things and other things.
Well, even like vampires and steaks, like. No shit, a wooden stake is going to kill someone if they're a vampire. Even if they're not a vampire, that's gonna kill you.
That's, I think, also because... So, the modern vampire was based off of Vlad Dracula. He was
the Impaler.
Yeah, Wallachian prince who was famous for putting wooden stakes through people. Big. He used big wooden poles. He went, like, through... basically your rectum and out your neck. He came out like right at the bottom of your neck. I know too much about this guy. Because he's literally
You a fan of his work, are you?
No, I saw... So, okay.
I'm not coming over to your
When
house.
I was a kid, I used to love this show called Deadliest Warrior. He was on an episode. I thought all his weapons were cool.
He was on an episode?
He was like one of the people, like, because they compare warriors from history.
Oh, okay.
He had like insane weapons, like handheld cannon.
I was going to say, if he was there in person, he really is the first true vampire.
Mr. Impaler, it's great to have you on
the show.
Yeah,
like handheld, sword that can cut someone in half.
Yeah.
Handheld cannon. The whole, like, him being, like, a vampire, like, was cool to me because I was, like, I liked that stuff as a kid.
I love
So it was, like, so I know too much. Anyway, I think that's where the stake came from. I might just be wrong, but it's because he would use wooden stakes to drive through people. And then, they force him impale corpse. Anyway.
But, so... Going back to Curse of the Undead, which I've been trying to talk about.
Sorry, we got sidetracked.
That's half of this show.
Speaking of vampires, yeah, I had to.
I
had to give a lesson on. I had to give.
That's the thing. This isn't even about vampires.
Well, it is now.
But so they used the folklore vampires that were sort of created because they committed the mortal sin of suicide, and then they were sort of rejected from hell and like cursed to walk around. Yeah. And the only way they could live without suffering was, sucking on some of that vitamin D that we find in humans' blood.
Some good old iron.
Maybe I should do that. I'm iron deficient.
And from here, first off, in the 50s and 60s, horror is kind of in a weird spot. Now, in the 60s, we're going to get stuff like Psycho, we're going to get stuff like Peeping Tom, and those are like the first like proto-slashers. And even later in the 60s, we're still getting like stuff like Night of the Living Dead. But horror during this time was largely dominated by like B-rated movies and crossover flicks with the Universal monsters. And with that is where Western horror lied for the majority of like the 60s. So it was still pretty obscure to find. However, we got Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
What?
Which Billy the Kid is like a famous Western.
Yeah, I know who Billy the Kid is.
Like,
but why?
Comics, everything. Versus Dracula. Once again, with vampires. And this was after, I'm pretty sure this was after Curse of the Undead. So, once again, vampires coming back into this. But I think the weirdest one is Jesse James.
Okay.
Prolific, like, killer.
Gunslinger, yeah.
Gunslinger, Jesse James. Outlaw. Meets Frankenstein's daughter.
It's not even Frankenstein's monster.
Not even Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster is still technically Frankenstein.
Well, technically not, because
He's Frankenstein's monster, but in the later movies, he just becomes referred to as Frankenstein.
Because Frankenstein's monster is from Dr. Frankenstein. Anyway, isn't Dr. Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's Dr. Frankenstein, and his monster is also called Frankenstein, though. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people love saying, actually, it's Frankenstein's monster. He's still called Frankenstein for most of the media that he's in, just because it was easier and it was an easy shorthand.
That doesn't even sound
and also,
anymore.
if you're a megalomaniac scientist, wouldn't you name the monster after yourself as well?
No. Why would you want to?
Because he's a narcissist.
It's your glorious creation.
You could call it like something like
it's lit.
Bubble,
my glorious reanimated creation.
Yeah,
rise, my child, rise! I shall name you Bubbo.
Don't just name it like it's a calling card. Like the villagers are like, let's burn him. What's your name, creature? Frankenstein. No,
Bubbo.
Frankenstein. And it's like, oh, what? Why are you called Frankenstein? That's the name of the guy that lives up in that creepy old mansion at the top of the hill.
And then he has to sit down and explain it to them. Okay.
He knows perfect English.
He's like
Oxford.
Dr. Frankenstein is a raging narcissist.
Yeah, that's all it is. Anyway, and then so after we got those weird crossover events, which I wouldn't even consider that horror because a lot and this is around the time that we had stuff like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein as well. So they were just mixed in and mingling. This is also the time that we had the monsters. So like these Universal monsters were really being heavily satirized.
Bonnie and Clyde meet the Invisible Man.
Where is he? I don't know. We got shot. Anyway, so we didn't really get anything until the late 80s, where we had a movie called Near Dark, which was released 1987, and it is a neo-Western, which means it's a Western, but it's like set more modern day than the actual Wild West. But it's still...
It's useless.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but it was set more modern day. And then we also had Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat 2 years later in 1989. And this one I really want to talk in depth about because I did not know it existed. But it is a comedy, which something I haven't mentioned is a lot of these horror Western things are either satirizing Western or satirizing horror, or they're just straight up comedies, which means to most people, Western and horror being mashed together is a comedic concept, which I guess it can be. Also, both of those are vampire stories once again.
Why? Like that, I don't understand. Why in a place with so much sun, and you would, and also like, it's so far from where vampires are supposed to be in any form.
Like I can get like zombies or something like that.
Yeah, zombies.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get into like what Western horror should be later. But yeah, so this is a comedy movie starring Bruce Campbell. Known from like the Evil Dead series.
Bruce Willis.
Welcome to
the thing is, that'd be just as weird. Actually, that'd be less weird, I feel like. But anyway, so starring Bruce Campbell and Dana Ashbrook, which that name's probably not going to jump out to you guys, but anyone who's a fan of Twin Peaks, Dana Ashbrook plays Bobby, and this was released like the year, like this was released like the year that Twin Peaks started and everything, because I think the pilot was released in 1989. So basically, Dan Ashbrook was filming the pilot for Twin Peaks and Sundown, The Vampires in Retreat. Okay. And then it was directed by Anthony Hickox. Not Hitchcock, Hickox. Which, to some diehard horror fans, that name might sound familiar to you because he did the original Waxwork movie, which is... I haven't seen it yet, but from what I understand, it's a really crazy and like I was gonna say esoterical, but more so just like strange and like trippy movie.
Not as trippy as The Killer Bong.
No.
That doesn't. Shut up. And once again, Sundown: The Vampire in Retreat is a Western horror movie set in modern day, and it is. Once again, it's a comedy, so this is a really weird premise, but it is about retired vampires who drink synthetic blood, and then a descendant of Van Helsing, which, once again, vampire lore in a Western movie. Mm-hmm. He shows up, and all I can say is, this looks like a fun movie, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, the movie doesn't have to be intelligent to be
That's true. Fun. So retired vampires drinking synthetic blood, like they have, like literally, I watched the trailer, and they have factories making this stuff.
Why don't you just drink pig's blood?
I don't know, because synthetic blood's better for you, you know? It's vegan.
That kind of is that a movie called Daybreakers or something? It's about like vampires have taken over the world, kind of like zombies, but like they're smart and there's like only small pieces of human population and they're just eat like I don't think they're drinking pig's blood or anything, but yeah, they're
synthetic blood.
Yeah, synthetic blood and stuff.
Actually, I read a book about that when I was younger, where it was like vampires are the dominant species now, and you know humans try and blend in with them, but they don't have like actual human meat, and they have to drink like pig or cow's blood. Then every year they hold a hunt where they find humans that are like actually escaped, and they hold them like a big dome, and you hunt them because it's like fresh meat and stuff.
Yeah, there was this one scene where they have like where the one guy comes home from like war and has like a champagne bottle, and it's full of human blood because it's so rare to get.
Okay.
And that was not a Western. It was more like dystopian.
But that's the thing. This has somehow become a vampire.
Because they all are vampires.
All of them have I don't know what the association there is.
It shouldn't
exist. It seems to pop into everyone's mind. And then, the last movie from this sort of obscure B-movie era that I want to talk about.
B-movie?
Not the B-movie.
You like jazz?
No, Jerry Seinfeld, and stop trying to have sex with a woman. You are a B. All right, so Grim Fairy Tales.
Continue. Grim Fairy Tales, yes.
Yeah, so Grim Fairy Tales, a movie that no one has heard of, despite the fact that it stars William Atherton.
Willem Dafoe?
No, William Atherton.
William
Dickless.
William
Dickless.
What?
From Ghostbusters.
Dickless. Oh.
Yeah. Walter Peck.
Also, wasn't he in Die Hard as well?
No, I don't think so.
I swear he was the guy that got punched in the face.
No, different asshole.
Different
asshole.
Different ginger-haired asshole.
Anyway, and then Mark McClure, who played Jimmy Olsen in the original Superman movies. You know, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen.
No.
What was that? Superman's pal.
Jimmy Olsen.
I don't really care for DC. DC's not good.
Okay.
Hey, that's a harsh opinion. Anyway.
Not the podcast for this. Brad Dourif, who voiced Chucky.
Oh. Like in the original Chucky movies?
In all of the Chucky movies.
Is it the same voice actor for all of them?
Yeah.
I swore it changed during Bride of Chucky.
I don't think so.
I swore it changed once.
I don't think so.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, and then this last one, it's a bit of an obscure name, but I think you both might know who it is. James Earl Jones.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys heard of him?
Tell us why we might know of James Earl Jones.
Well, you guys don't know James Earl Jones. He is the voice of Darth Vader in this small cult indie movie from 1977 called Star Wars: A New Hope.
I haven't heard of that movie.
Haven't heard of it? No,
I thought you would have.
I've never seen it.
Never? Okay.
No.
Anyway, and he's so this is an anthology movie. And he's like the sort of like narrator and stuff who's telling these stories to everyone. And it seems like the framing, because most anthology movies have like a framework that they work around, is that it's basically a bunch of people camping out in the desert, like a bunch of cowboys camping out in the desert.
Yeehaw.
And they're
I don't know if I call it camping as much as surviving.
Surviving in the desert. Anyway, they're around a fire and they're being told these like several stories, like that are like Western horror stories. And this sounds like what Western horror should be, because the stories that are told, it seems like they're actually grounded in like Wild West mythos, I guess.
Let me look this up.
But the unfortunate thing is it sucks.
Yeah.
Very, very low scoring critically, and it sucks so bad that I can't even find a copy of it to purchase if I wanted to.
Could you?
And that, to me, defines the state of Western horror. It sounds like a good idea, but no one's making it a good idea.
Yeah, like it seems like it should be fairly easy, like dreary towns and stuff.
Well, exactly. Like when you think of Westerns, or like just like Wild West culture in general, there's a lot of ideas that can spring up there. And Nick's taking a while to search up his little thing here, but
the thing that I think is really good in Western horror is that thing that you showed me, but I already
which we're gonna get into soon here. All right, so
I'm just saying. I'm looking at because I think creature horror is the way to go when it comes to Western.
Oh yeah.
I think it's one of the ways to go, but I think there is other opportunities.
But there are a million different things in American mythology that aren't.
American mythology sounds weird to me.
Well, because it's mostly Native American mythology.
Oh, okay, so like Wendigos.
But not even. Like, there's ones for different states.
What do you mean?
Like there's ones from different states of the there's like, have you ever heard of what's it called, Ogo Pongo? Something. It's like a lake monster from BC.
I feel like I've heard of that.
I've probably heard of it.
It's like a Loch Ness monster from Ogo Pogo from BC. Anyway, it's like anyway. But it's like how we have those like kinds of myths. They have those in the States. A lot of them are based actually in the northern states, like Maine and.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff in America.
But there are ones in the like plains and like western states.
Yeah,
a lot of them are on ghosts and
well, that's the thing. A ghost story
things.
Would be.
And a lot of them are like based around like ghost trains. Because that's around the time that trains were the best form of transportation or the fastest,
and also derailed quite a bit.
Yeah. Just accidents all the time.
Well, yeah, Liam could tell us like a lot about these.
Yeah.
But like a lot of them are around ghost trains, or a lot of them actually around ghost women, like female killers who were caught and then were hanged. Actually, were hanged, and then
Not hung.
I think it's hanged.
Hung.
Is it? I swear it's hanged. Anyway, grammatical issues aside,
they were roast us in the car.
They were executed, and then there's myths of them coming back and like sneaking into people's like rooms if you were staying at like a bed and breakfast, which wasn't really a thing, but like a hotel.
Right. Yeah. Well, and like like go to any town in like, not the Bible Belt, but like the
Even the
Western-
Bible Belt.
Yeah, I guess the Bible.
Like, what is that? Kentucky.
It's a lot of states.
It's like a
Any state that's slightly racist.
Yeah.
red states.
Racism.
Red state.
Red states.
Racism and religion just kind of
They clasp hands at the
just
altar.
kind of just go like this, and they're like, "Hey, we're just gonna be friends, but not tell anybody that
They
we're
clasp
kinda
their
related."
hands at the altar and then they knock on your door and say, "Hi, have you heard of our Lord and Savior?"
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior? Insert God.
Insert whatever.
It's
religion.
always Jesus Christ.
Hello,
He's our Lord and Savior.
my name is Elder White. I would like to share with you this book of Jesus Christ. Have you guys seen that?
No, I have
no.
not seen
musical.
that. I don't think so.
I'm
You
sorry.
gotta watch it. It's so good.
I'm sorry. Okay, one thing I also want to talk about with westerns in general. Stop, Nick. Stop. But no, so with westerns don't necessarily have to be set in like the settler Wild West type stuff.
Not Pioneer, but
No, not pioneer, but like you know
what
what
I'm
I'm
talking
talking. Like when they settled in California and such. That's where the Wild West is.
ooh, avocado toast and Bitcoin.
That's modern. That's modern California. California.
No, that
Cali,
was also
dude.
Wild West. You know, all those miners going down with their pans down to the river to search for some Bitcoin.
You mean hipsters?
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see a Wild West movie where it's just hipsters.
Is it just hipsters?
Hipsters panning for gold.
Yep.
No, a Western horror movie about hipsters where they're the villain. No, not the triple Starbucks latte mocha.
What for like the 2020s?
It's $15.
Oh my god.
I can't.
Thing is,
There's a coffee shop on every corner.
I'd still probably buy a $15 coffee if Starbucks increased their prices. I'm addicted. It's not good. I mean, it is good, but it's really good coffee.
Nick, this is an intervention.
Yeah, we got.
I won't have it. I won't have it.
Here's a number to rehab.
I won't take it. Did I actually hate it?
No, the rings made a loud
your
bang.
rings are like bells, just
Yeah.
dong.
Jesus. Anyway,
It's 'cause it's
so
shaking the
no, what I
springs
want
on
to
the
clarify
lights.
about westerns is they don't necessarily have to be set in that typical western era because there's things like the Hateful Eight, which are set like up in snowy regions, where it's still western stuff, right? Like westerns is more so about the type of culture that surrounds it, like gunslingers and such. And
You
so
ever gonna take the bandana off?
what?
Just gonna leave the bandana on the whole
Yeah,
time.
it looks stylish.
Does it?
Also,
COVID safe, baby.
is Interview with a Vampire? Isn't that
Is
what
it
it's
a
called?
western? I haven't seen Interview with a Vampire.
Well, it takes place in like New Orleans in like the 1800s.
No, that's not western. That's like
Close.
it's close by, but also western depends on the type of story because you can have like a story in the Wild West and it's not a western, like it's a slapstick.
1994 horror fantasy.
hit horror fantasy. What?
Yeah. That's what the movie
Oh,
is.
Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's more of a fantasy movie. But anyway, what I want to get onto now is so there's this band which I don't know how to describe how their music sounds. Help me with this, Liam.
Like
I would say
rockish, kinda?
cowboy rock. Actually, no, cowboy grunge.
It sounds like something that like a folk tale, but like more rockish.
Well, like it's very much like rock.
Okay, well, Interview with the Vampire was based on, or was set in plantations in New Orleans.
Okay, so yeah, it's not horror. It's horror, but it's not western.
It's Western era because it's late 1800s.
It's yeah, but just because something's in the era.
Yeah. Well,
like-
I'm just late 1800s,
Yeah.
Western era, but not Western setting.
Okay.
Done.
But so Ghoultown. So their music is like, it's like I'm just gonna say cowboy rock because I think that's a funny way to describe it.
Sure, yeah.
But so there's two of their songs in particular which tell stories. It tells stories in them, and essentially those two stories are about they're about
Vampires.
No.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is what it should,
It's
what
like-
horror should look like for Western.
It's like Wild West tales, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's tales in the Wild West, but they're also horror, and there's music videos to go along with them, which have a great look.
yeah.
And so we can't play the music. Maybe I'll show some clips from the videos here to emphasize my point. But it's really good storytelling in the music for one, but also it's a really good idea of what Western horror could be if someone wanted to take it in that direction. And I really wish that you had watched both of the videos before coming on here, like I told you to.
We're throwing massive shade now. Nick.
Oopsie daisy, I'm busy. I didn't
I'm
actually.
throwing massive shade.
I was not told to that I was going to be on
And
this
there's your hat. Gone.
until about an hour prior to filming, so I unfortunately did not have the time.
Well, that's fine.
Fair enough.
That's why I'm here.
All right. Anyway, so we'll start with the first song, which is "Drink with the Living Dead" by Ghoultown.
Yeah,
Check it out if you haven't. I would maybe pause this, listen to it, come back, but make sure you come back.
Please come back.
Please
We'll wait.
go watch it now.
Do you think they're back yet?
Well, it depends if they paused us or not. Anyway, so "Drink with the Living Dead." So it tells the story of a man named Stanton Creed. So basically, the story of Stanton Creed is he's a guy who
He's just a guy.
he's just a guy.
He's just a dude.
Just a small
No.
town girl.
Just a small town ghoul.
Living in a lonely world. He took the midnight train going straight
to hell.
All right.
Bump, bump.
Anyway, so basically he stole another man's drink and then was hung for that. You know, the typical crime of stealing someone's drink and being hung for it.
Why not just like demand, hey, please pay for my drink?
No. I mean, he was also an outlaw, but no.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of get the
Anyway,
second reason.
and then so because of this incredible fallacy that he instituted, he was cursed, resurrected, and then he was basically just cursed to walk around and, as the song says, drink or duel someone every night.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, if the person can't outdrink this dead person, basically, he has to duel them, and because he's undead, obviously he's going to freaking kill them. Because, like, you shoot him, it goes right through him.
Yeah.
He's a zombie.
Yeah, he's basically a skeleton with like leather hide over him, so it just go.
Yeah. And so it's perfect. It's perfect Western storytelling. It tells the story of someone who was a cowboy, who was an outlaw, but also adds those horror elements of someone from the undead coming back. But that also ties back in with those Western parts, and it feels very integrated in lore around that time. To the point where, for me, this is like where I identified with Western horror being a thing that I wanted to see in modern media more often. And so the video is, it's animated in a very peculiar way, but it has the perfect amount of like grit and grime to it, and it has these very cool and stylistic character designs. And so, Liam, since you watched it, I just want to know if you have any thoughts on like what happened in Drink with the Living Dead.
No thoughts, head empty.
No, I thought it looked really good. I liked the art style, definitely.
Yeah.
It looked like kind of like watercolor almost.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know, it kind of felt like what I would want from a Western horror thing, because like the background was like very dreary. It looked like a rainstorm was about to
sort
come.
of washed out.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It looked very good. And it had like a nice story about this.
Well, I don't know about a nice story, but it had a good story.
A heartwarming tale.
A heartwarming tale.
I know
of the
this-
man who drinks people to death.
I know this isn't the same, but the connection kind of makes me think of at least the content of the song makes me think of The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Okay.
Because it's, the competition where your life is on the line.
Yeah.
But I think it's maybe that band kind of reminds me of that song from Never Hearing Them.
Yeah, I think you'd probably change your mind.
Well, no, I don't think their sound is the
No,
same.
they sound very different.
I just by cowboy rock. I'm assuming it's not, but I think it's the same idea of a storytelling song, which sounds kind of interesting.
Anyway, and so the second song from them, which a lot of their songs like mix Western and horror together in this way, but these are the two that like really like came out to me as like telling an actual story.
Mm-hmm.
It's also because they both had amazing like animations to them. But so Bury Them Deep is the story of basically a priest who preaches sort of like anarchy, leading to a town mob that kills a supposedly innocent man, and then the devil in disguise sets the town loose on each other, and then the priest gets slaughtered. And so this shows Themes of mob violence that could be common in the West are like taking the law into your own hands.
Vigilante justice.
Yeah, right. Like
my
there was
rights, my
there was
freedoms,
one
my
sheriff.
guns.
There was like one sheriff in each town, and people were just kind of like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna have a hang.
I know I can't. Okay, real life versus obviously video games. There's a line, but when you talk about Wild West, Red Dead Redemption 2 is set in the 1880s or 1890s, and it's.
I did want to talk about Red Dead Redemption also, so thank you for bringing that up. Cause
it is good in terms of there are Western myths in it. There are horror elements to the game at times.
Have you seen Red Dead Redemption 1 Undead Nightmare?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Red Dead Redemption 1 Undead Nightmare is basically zombies in the Wild West. Because Red Dead Redemption 1 takes place in Mexico.
It takes place in like lower states and on the border to Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, because
in,
that's...
like, in like 1911, I think.
Around 19... Yeah, because Red Dead 1 finishes in 1900... After the epilogue, it's 1900-something, and the main story takes place in the either 1880s or 1890s. Anyway, because John Marston. Morgan. Anyway, it's a very good game. Best game, in my opinion, I've ever played. Set in the Wild West, has some horror elements. You see ghost trains. There's swamp people and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think it's a really good piece of Western media. And there are horror elements, and I think the horror elements in Red Dead are done really well. And when it comes to zombies in Western, I think that's a great example of what we can see. Because that game was made, like Undead Nightmare was made in the early 2000s.
No, not early 2000s.
No, it was made like 2010, wasn't it?
I think it was 2008.
2008, 2009, 2010, around there.
But that's still early 2000s.
Yeah.
Which is very much the same time that you'd be able to make a decent Western zombie movie. And I think if you were to make a Western movie...
way more close to what Western horror movies should have instead of vampires.
Well,
right?
Western, in a sense, is scary. It's barren. You're surviving off of the land. You know, it's you and your gun.
If you were
Everybody's
to have
out
a
to
zombie
get you.
movie in a
Everything
Western
is
setting,
out to get you.
You would be fighting the zombies, but you would also I feel like it would be harder to survive because now you're surviving in a barren wasteland where you can't gather supplies easily.
Yeah, and in Undead Nightmare, literally everybody's dead. Basically, everybody's dead.
Except for John.
Yeah, except John and like a few other people. But it's very like, I don't know why, but it feels like very hallucinogenic because...
It feels like he took shrooms and he's like... Ugh.
Yeah, because you find people who are surviving and are completely fine. And then you see others and it's just like waves and waves of zombies. And it's just very dreary. The music is creepy. The zombies like make these... crazy moments.
They made these horrible gargling noises.
Yeah.
Like, you'll hear them go and they'll be, like, gargling their own blood in their throat because their, like, vocal cords are dying. It's kind of the same thing as Dying Light zombies. But zombies should fit the theme of
Zombies
Western
are one of the things
well.
that fit the theme of
And
Western,
I think,
especially considering, like, how many people would die in those areas just because of the rough conditions.
It would also be interesting because you wouldn't get the massive waves if you were in Wild West zombies because there isn't that many people. It would be one man versus, say, 30 zombies, and that would be close to the ratio of 30 to 1, opposed to when I'm eating my own hair.
Yeah, and there's no like military to come in.
Because like we see in a lot of zombie media,
but
like at the end they're saved because of the military.
But like when you're looking at regular zombie movies, especially like I'm trying to think of movies with like a massive population of zombies, where it's like
I would argue The Walking Dead is the best.
Where it's like 500 to 1 in terms of zombies.
Yeah,
World War Z. Where it's in terms of like
has giant
500 to 1.
Yeah,
where it's like that's
they
just
managed to survive.
Yeah, that's just pointless at that point. It's like when you have a ratio that's closer to 10 to 20 to 30 to 1, like especially Train to Busan, best zombie movie in my opinion, has a better ratio of zombies.
I still really do like Train to Busan.
I haven't seen Train to Busan.
Oh, it is amazing.
I know, I want to watch it, I just haven't gotten around.
It's not on Netflix anymore, so.
No, it's on Shudder though.
Yeah, watch it.
I will.
It's not even that long.
I know.
But yeah, it is amazing. It made me cry.
It is I don't like zombies because to me, zombies are genuinely a kind of scary subject.
Yeah.
But also, that is like scary
That's a
zombie.
change, because before you were saying they weren't. Like,
I'm honestly...
Good zombies are scary. Okay. The majority of zombies, to me, I laugh at because it's like, whoa, you're going to stumble and fall and you're going to break your ankle and you're going to crawl at me. Like,
yeah. 28 Days Later, that scared me. Yeah. I didn't want to watch
Cillian
that.
Murphy in it, isn't it?
Is it Cillian Murphy?
I think Cillian Murphy's the main character, yeah.
I don't know. But I remember I didn't want to watch it because I was like... there's this dad whose daughter he's trying to protect his daughter, and he gets infected, and it's like I kind of imagined my own family in that kind of situation, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to put a bullet in my.
If you've
parents'
played the
brain.
Walking Dead Telltale game,
Yeah.
Did you?
I've watched a playthrough.
Oh,
Have you? Do you know what happens?
No, I
Okay,
didn't
well
know that
I'm gonna
existed.
spoil it. I'm going to.
It's
not for the best game ever.
It is a really good game.
It's actually good.
There's a part where a guy gets infected and he's begging this young girl to shoot him.
basically his daughter figure.
Basically,
really.
he's a father figure to this girl,
Okay.
and he's chained up to the wall because he got infected, and he's like still sentient and like conscious at this point, but he's turning like slowly, and he's like begging this girl to shoot him because he doesn't want to turn and then have to get
And
shot
the crazy
down.
thing is, you're controlling, I believe, the girl, right?
You're
And-
controlling Clem.
Yeah, and you have a choice to leave him or shoot him. That is crazy. Like, it's like...
Because if you leave him, I think someone else shoots him.
Do they?
I don't think they let him turn.
I thought that if you leave him, he just turns, but...
He dies by someone else's hand, basically.
Okay, well...
If you kill him, you don't have to. You don't end him at all, which I think is a good thing because if you choose not to end him, it would be like there's a game
Either way.
discussion.
Back
to West.
I do want to talk about... what's the second one?
Bury Them Deep more?
Yeah. That one I very much like. I saw it a few years ago.
Really?
The actual animation...
It's very similar to Bury Them Deep, but it's more, I would say, it's more 3D animation, whereas, so
they're the
Drink with
same-
the Living Dead was very 2D, like, it was literally, like, basically just, like, pictures moving across the frame, like, there wasn't any actual movement to the characters themselves, really. And then Bury Them Deep, I think it is CG animated, but it has such, like, a distinct style to it that it looks really nice.
But yeah, I saw because isn't Bury Them Deep? Isn't it just a music video with an old animation put over it? Because I swear, the animation, the Backwater Gospel, that's like the main animation, and they just put the stuff.
So
over
wait,
it.
so was it re-edited for the music video?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I saw it a few years ago, and honestly, it's an amazing thing.
Okay.
It's kind of different from, I think, your description, because there's...
Yeah, well,
this,
it was a loose description.
yeah, there's this guy, and he's strumming his guitar,
Yeah.
and there's talking in the animation, so you can hear,
Oh,
like, what
okay,
they're
that's
saying.
probably why I misunderstood, because I have never seen the original animation because I didn't know it existed.
And so, this guy, he's sitting on a rock, and he's strumming his guitar. He doesn't have a leg, but he's kind of like, the drunken old man who would be singing and telling, the end's coming. But he's not religious. The priest hates his guts because he's kind of like,
You're a sinner type thing, yeah.
And then eventually he manages to make his way up to the church as he's doing a sermon and says, goes right up to the window like, the Undertaker is coming. And then...
That's a creepy voice.
Well, I honestly, I think that's actually really good. I don't know how I did that voice.
The Undertaker's coming.
The Undertaker's coming. And then
Like
he goes...
Scoob. The Undertaker's coming, man.
And then he goes back down to the rock. And the Undertaker comes on this bicycle, and he looks very, like, Victorian almost, with this big old top hat.
Yeah.
And he just sits near a guillotine in the town square for an exact week until the next Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And eventually, they ring the church bells again because it's Sunday. They come out, and they're just pissed at this one dude because they think he's the reason why the Undertaker's here. And so they go, and they kill him. Which, completely wrong because he was innocent.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything, which is kind of like the power of religion. It forces
Yeah,
things
which
upon
I think
people.
is something that is another thing that should be present in Western horror movies is that presence of religion, because the Wild West is something that was often dominated by religion, and that's something we don't see in a lot of Western media.
Yeah, because there's nothing you could
and
hope for.
I like Wild West media.
That's not as fun to show as, we're gonna pop a cap in you at noon.
Well, yeah, obviously you're not just, like, it's boring to see people just go into church, but if you show, like, the devil in people and, like, just, like, the danger is people themselves being influenced by religion, I think that has a certain power to it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then they kill this guy innocently, and his body is sprawled out like, like Jesus almost, despite the fact he doesn't have a leg.
Yeah.
And then the Undertaker, I don't know if it's really the Undertaker that kind of inspires them mentally to kill each other. But one of the guys says, well, it ain't gonna be me, because they all think, oh, he's here for one person, and the guy's like, well, it ain't gonna be me, so I'm gonna kill everybody else, and they all start fighting, and eventually they all kill each other. So this entire town is completely dead. Nobody's alive, and then the Undertaker picks out his measuring tape, starts stretching out the tape, measuring bodies and putting them in coffins. So he never actually killed anybody.
So, because my understanding of it was that it was the devil in disguise, but even still, maybe the Undertaker is just sort of an omen, and his presence there is causing certain a certain amount of mayhem in it.
Well, it's just paranoia.
Well, yeah, paranoia for one, but also the big guy, the one that uses the cross to actually kill the priest in the end of it.
Squashes his head.
Yeah, he squashes his head in. He's undead. Like, when he squashes the priest's head in, he's undead.
Basically,
he had already been shot.
Yeah, he'd been shot, right here, which honestly could have maybe been adrenaline. He is a really big guy, but yeah, he was, shot. You could see a hole right here where you could see his jaw.
I definitely don't think that he...
Well, he could have lived it. It's possible.
But maybe. It might have, honestly...
If it didn't hit his, stem, where you connect your spine and your brain.
But from the animation, it seems like he had a pretty big chunk of his head gone, so I think he would have been...
He might have been, half alive, half possessed by the... And then,
maybe
squashed him with the cross.
But either way, it's stuff like that I think is why Western horror could be something that is good and exists, but we're just not seeing any of it. And I kept thinking this when I was going through my research, and then I landed on one movie, which is called Bone Tomahawk. Sounds cool. Is cool. It's the most acclaimed of any of the movies we've looked at today. It's pretty recent. I think it's 2018. And it's not horror. It's horror. But it's not, horror in the traditional sense, because it is very realistic. And it shows, the brutal side of the Wild West, the desperation, the danger.
So it's like Chernobyl, the series, that style of horror.
I would say horror. It's comparable. Yeah, it's comparable to that. It's not horror in the sense of he's out to get you.
Yeah,
but it's what I'm watching is horrifying imagery, and the ideas present here scare me, because it also deals with cannibalism, lawlessness, and I haven't seen the movie yet. I want to watch it, but I think it has not Kurt. It might have Kurt Russell in it. I think actually. It might be. I don't know. I can't remember. But I think it has some decently famous actors in it. But it doesn't seem like it was talked about all too much. And that might be the biggest problem with Western horror, is that there's not a big enough genre. It's not a big enough genre yet, and there's not demand for it, and no one's really thinking about it. But as we've discussed here, it could be something that spawns and continues. And I think it leaves room for sequels and whatnot.
Someone just needs to drive.
Someone just needs to do it.
To bite the bullet. It's very fitting for the Wild West, and create something that is on the fence of maybe popular.
But so with that, you already talked about how you want to see creature horror mixed in with Western stuff. I think you were touching on how religion was a major aspect for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be the main.
But it's certainly
subplot.
Yeah, how religion can affect people and sway them in ways to almost be horror.
But even stepping away from how religion influences people, religious imagery could be used in horror ways, the devil, it could just be the devil coming into town or something.
Devil went down to Georgia.
Exactly. The devil
soul to steal.
I like how in that song it implies that Georgia is lower than hell, or that or that the
went down to Georgia,
or that the devil lives up north, he's
from Alaska.
Yeah.
The devil has a summer retreat in Alaska.
Whoa.
That's where he goes in the summer. Anyway, so that's all we really have for you guys today. This has been a fun episode to discuss. And I want to hear what you guys think, so if you feel so, feel free to comment below what you think would be a good idea for a Western horror. And if you have a really good idea, write a script. I don't know. I can't guarantee you're going to get it to be made. But if you have a good idea, do something with it, please. And if you have any really good suggestions for horror media that we should check out, Western horror media that we should check out.
Even any horror media.
Any horror media in general. If you guys want to suggest topics down below, you certainly can. But if you guys have any Western horror media, things that you want us to take a look at and want to suggest to us and everyone else, that would be great, because I would really love to see something that's really good with that. And with that, Nick is doing some weird hand thing.
He's doing sign language.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say, boy? Timmy's down the old well.
So Spider-Man.
Okay, and with that, that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a really great time. Sorry that we were away for like longer than that, like 3
I
weeks.
got really busy. I'll take the blame.
We all got busy.
I'm in competition. I'm a dancer. I'm in competition season. It's hard for me to find time to sit down and record these.
And it's been harder. It's been harder for us to get into the into the room. So
the episodes might not be as frequent here on out,
but the quality will still remain.
We'll figure something out. And with that, I think we're just gonna end. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next time on the spooky side.